A wise friend once said to me, if we love and care for nature, we will care for ourselves and others. It all flows from there.
My name is Sam Hilton. I grew up on the central coast of New South Wales, Australia. My love of the ocean and the water began with my father introducing me to surfing from a very early age and also fishing around these very waters. A very beautiful place to grow up, and I'm lucky to call this place home. I'd been working as a surf coach for the Central Coast Surf Academy and really loving that. And I recently started a job working as a tour guide and an oyster farmer for the Cygnet Bay Pearl Farm. It's one of the most sustainable farming practices in Australia, and also one of the oldest. The Indigenous of Australia have been collecting shellfish for thousands of years before us. And it's also really good knowing that we're working with native species. A typical day on the Pearl Farm, well, we get up really early in the morning and we head out on our boats. And I don't mind that because it's a beautiful place to come work. The most important part of my job is loving and caring for these oysters. We look after the oysters from birth until around 18 months. The smaller ones will be food stock and the others will become cultured pearls. We have to constantly monitor them, checking the lines, pulling them up, cleaning them and putting them back down. All up, we have to look after them for around 4 to 5 years. Oyster farming is variable and there's a lot of environmental challenges, there's predators out there. They wouldn't survive in the numbers that we have here in the wild, so it becomes our responsibility to look after them. We're really at the mercy of Mother Nature out here. Being around the water is something that appeals to me. It's really calming being out here in this environment. And there's lots of marine life around the oysters and bird life everywhere. There is that relationship that if we look after our waterways, we'll have healthy oysters. A lot of places in the world aren't as lucky as us, so I really feel that responsibility heavily to look after this environment.
I craved adventure, which would send me on a journey from east to west, following the story of the Australian pearl. Cygnet Bay would be my home base for the next 3 months while I train and prepare for a 9-day, 265-kilometre voyage. The mission? To paddle around the tip of the Dampier Peninsula via the Buccaneer Archipelagos and into the Indian Ocean following the west coast down to Broome. This would be my first big solo expedition in a sea kayak. I don't like to tick the boxes, and I hate people judging me. I've always found it easier and much more satisfying to find my own way in life. That is to say, not having a path laid out in front of me by someone else. It is for this reason that I feel stuck in between two worlds, the one society wants me to be, or who it expects me to be, and the unknown. The unknown is where everything exists for me. Anything can be manifested here as long as I believe I can achieve it. What saddens me is to see our environment, the reason why everything exists, being destroyed and not cared for. Gulwan, the Australian South Sea pearl oyster. The local Bardi Jawi collect and carve this shell into ridgey. This holds the knowledge and the stories of the land and the ocean. It's how their culture has been passed down for generations. The oyster lives to serve and protect the environment. Even after the harvest of the shell, its story and legacy lives on through the Bardi Jawi. Have you ever felt the stars align? Feels like a journey, gaze set on reaching for the stars. The mountain to climb can only be reached step by step through all the twists and turns and challenges it brings. To be present is to align with the stars, in full servitude of this moment, of the personal mountaintop of achieving one's dream. You made the stars align by manifesting a dream that became your reality. Dream wisely, and it too will align for you as your story unfolds. I am ready. I can't think about tomorrow. I trust in this moment right now that I have everything I need and nothing more. I always felt like a square peg being forced into a round hole. School wasn't easy, being bullied, domestic violence, and only really excelling in what my mind could pay attention to long enough that it could sink in. Three days of howling winds, amusing myself by eating oysters off the rocks, fishing, watching sunsets, and making new friends. Seizing a small window of opportunity, thinking it's now or never, I begin my paddle in strong winds and swell. I couldn't believe I didn't capsize. After a short rest and waiting for the tide to come in, I was around One Arm Point. Into the Pearl Pass, I spotted a huge manta ray busting up out of the water. With the sun upon my face and the wind behind my back, I used my sail, riding the currents and the outgoing tides just like the Bardi Jawi had told me, all the way to Swan Point. Around the tip of the Dampier Peninsula to the west coast, I had finally reached the Indian Ocean. A massive first day of paddling. I wanted to push myself to my absolute physical limit. Testing my strength to see how much I could endure became part of my mission. Soaking up the spirit of this majestic coastline, I caught my first Spanish mackerel. Woohoo! I made camp early for the day and got a fire going to cook my fish on the coals. The ocean was smiling with me. Its good grace had guided me here. The shack belonged to an osprey who kept a watchful eye over his home. I was happy to meet him, thanked him for my stay, and set on my way, hopeful to return another day. Back on the water and a fun day of gliding in the ocean in my Mirage 580 from Bustleton. Beautiful sandy beaches stretching as far as the eye can see. Rugged, rocky, red coastlines meet the beautiful aqua blue sea. I often wonder, how long can it stay like this, now with the road being sealed and all? How will the local people manage to keep their culture alive and spirit strong when they're overrun with tourists looking for cheap thrills? My biggest day paddling yet began with a big bay crossing.
Travelled 80 metres this morning. Only another 36 kilometres to go. Can he do it? Let's go!
Halfway across, and a couple of big nudges on the back of my sea kayak, my mind starts racing. Shark, crocodile, whale. I don't stop to look back, you just keep going. Lucky for me, I had a booby bird watching over me. I made it to the other side of the bay. I was greeted by a friendly camper who offered me a water refill before I set off around yet another incredible part of this coastline. It's the sort of thing you have to see with your own eyes. To truly experience the magic of this place in a sea kayak is far out.
That was friggin' insane! Whoa! Where did that wave come from?
I contemplated pulling into camp. Although the wind seemed to be in my favour, I decided to set sail and course across yet another bay before calling it a day.
Hard yakka!
"3 days into the wind, oh the joy. I was made aware by a local that going south to north would be an easier trip. In my mind, it didn't make sense in terms of the story or the journey of where I'm heading. This would be a real test of my strength and endurance. I definitely began to feel the wind beating me head on. Looking towards the shore sometimes felt like I never got anywhere at all. Kayaking really is a lot like hiking once you get going. I'm constantly reminding myself to stay present and enjoy the scenery, taking in all the senses.
Such a beautiful place. A little bit of rubbish scattered along this part of the coast, so I marked it on my GPS, and I can't take much of my kayak, obviously. I'm pretty chockers as it is, but yeah, I'd love to get back up this way and clean it up and leave it better than I found it. Oh, what a day.
The daily commute to work. Seriously though, life becomes much easier when you're focused on the simple things like being grateful for spending time in nature, having food and shelter. Nothing comes easy or without its challenges though.
Hardcore adventure. Hopefully the wind's kind to me today.
Fatigue had set in, and that's when I made one of my biggest mistakes of the trip. With the kayak fully loaded, 100 kilos smashing into your leg, I was lucky it didn't break it. I fired up my electronic bilge pump, emptied the water, and made a dash for the ocean. I can see now my journey is just beginning to serve and protect this planet one paddle at a time. I will continue to carve a story of the places and the people that inspire me. Teach and learn, we will find a middle way. My first capsize, 8 days into the journey, finally the ocean had defeated me. Tomorrow I would reach Broome.
Woohoo! Made it to Cable Beach. Geez, I'm glad to be at Broome. That is going down as one of the most challenging adventures of my life. Absolute journey of a lifetime. But I'll be glad to get off this boat and out of the water. Oh, wave. Reflections on the trip. Whew. You know, if you really set your mind to something, you can do it. Even if everyone says you can't, as long as you believe in yourself, just go for it. I was exhausted some of the days, and absolute challenge lugging my kayak up some of those beaches and paddling into headwinds for 3 or 4 days now. But it's all worth it in the end. I never lost my spirit. And there's a nice little access road here, so I'm hopefully going to surf in.
Big thanks and gratitude to the spirit of this land, the ocean and its people, the Bardi Jawi, Nyul Nyul, the Yaru. I wish you all the best, and I hope we meet again someday. Until then, see you out there on the big salty blue.